Contact, right!
All right, you're back on the firing line.
How you guys
Matt and
doing?
Joe.
That's right, that's right. With Matt and Joe. Who's who? That's for you to decide. More on the malfunction of firearm
Exactly.
series.
Take two, just like we said we'd come out with. One of the things we want to talk about is tap and rack, of course, as we brought up last week, and how important it is to practice that. And Matt and I have come up with, what, 3 different ways to fix a stovepipe, since that's what today's malfunctions are.
We were doing a misfire in the last video. Today we're going to do a stovepipe. Yeah, we were just kind of discussing, you know, what could happen, and so we came up exactly with 3 things, and they all end up working. They all do clear the gun. There are reasons, and we'll kind of get into it. Sometimes you don't always get a live round in the chamber, so, you know, but we'll point that out to you as we do it.
Exactly.
Again, we are using the metal snap caps, so dummy rounds, inside the M&P, so there will be no live ammunition again. So, again, we don't want to hear about it.
Clear gun, nothing in the chamber.
Except for dummy rounds.
Yep. And you know what? I would suggest that everybody get some snap caps and practice with these things at home. But I would seriously consider too, making sure that you're with somebody else and having both people checking to make sure there's no live ammunition mixed up. And no, actually, the best thing to do is make sure there's no live ammunition on the table or anywhere in the room.
Yeah, and
both people should be able to verify that.
And try and have a designated area where you go to. Like that's what I do. I mean, I literally I go out into my garage where I know there's no ammunition or anything, and that's where I do my dry practices out there because. And then when I step inside the house, I reload the gun and I actually say out loud, "Gun is hot," and then I put it back in the holster. That way I don't go from, you know, basically doing the practice to accidentally pressing off a round right after you just loaded it, because that kind of stuff happens.
Yep. And
so with the stovepipe malfunction, this is a pretty typical view right there.
So that's simple stovepipe.
Looks like a stovepipe.
Yep, brass has come back out, fell back down into the weapon as it's trying to cycle through and get another round back into the chamber.
Yeah, if that happens, or a lot of times when the gun also gets very dirty and slows down, sometimes it also will catch around there and flip it up.
Now we've seen people use this, what we call the sweep motion. There are certain people that I guess after they train enough and they want to work through something, they can add this into their possibility to be able to survive faster. But again, we still recommend you use tap and rack.
So the
sweep is just
right,
this.
I press the trigger, nothing, come over, get it out of there, fire. And as you see, there is a live round that you loaded in there, and that would have worked. So
exactly.
All I had to do was just get that thing out of the ejection port.
Now, here's the thing, is that will not always work.
Yeah.
Tap and rack is something you cannot replace. As we get through all of these, we're going to show you exactly what we mean.
And I've seen a sweep just within the last week where somebody swept it and they swept to an empty chamber. So in that case, if you were to sweep to an empty chamber, you would have to tap rack in any case. Okay?
Right. All right, so now what we're going to do next is just a tap rack, just to show you that importance right here. Okay, so in this case again, he brings his firearm up to bear there,
and the main thing, keep in mind, you don't want to grab anywhere near where this thing is because you're trying to get this out of here. So behind where the jam is, so you make sure
grab the serrations on your firearm.
Yeah, the rear area. Don't grab up front and don't grab over the port. Okay, so it's going to be a simple tap, rack, and
back into it.
And you'll see it reloaded around into the chamber.
Now you're gonna. The thing is, as he just showed you there, tap and rack is took both rounds out of play and put a brand new one in. Now, had there been a malfunction with the magazine not being seated correctly, and that's what caused part of that malfunction, right there and then, slap rack, no matter what, he's got another round going back into play and getting into the chamber. And that's why tap and rack is so important, especially for if you guys that are just starting out shooting, if you're doing competition or even defensive shooting. If you don't get into that practice, you're going to get stuck in that narrow mindset of like, what do I do when that malfunction happens?
Yeah, let the tap rack be a broad stroke. Think of it, you're using the broad brush for tap rack because it covers so many things, as opposed to other methods that only cover one specific jam. I know with a stovepipe, we both prefer a tap rack. So there's one more way that we've messed around to take it further, and it's basically combining
the sweep and the tap and rack, which to me is kind of pointless because then you're just adding a whole new thing when tap rack in the first place fixes it.
Exactly. Now, so if you're going to be sweeping the gun, I personally would tap rack after I swept it almost no matter what, because I'm not sure a round went into that chamber on a sweep, okay? Because a lot of times it happens. So that's where tap rack, yes, you do lose that round, but you're no longer taking the gamble.
Right.
So this one, we're just going to combine them both. I'm going to start with the trigger, go sweep it out, tap, rack, fire, and you will see reloaded a new round, so that would have fired right there, and it also got rid of the jam.
Yep. Again, I stress tap rack. That's going to be your best fix for everything, and I hope that that's what you practice for when you go out there.
Yeah. So and it just becomes, and as you watch these videos, tap rack will at least get you. If it doesn't solve everything, it will at least get you the first step to everything.
Yep. Now, here's another thing. If you're shooting steel case ammunition or possibly rounds that haven't been resized correctly and stuff like that, you do have the chance of sometimes your extractor slipping off of the weapon, and or not off of the weapon, but off of the casing that's in the chamber. And if that happens, even if you're doing this, you're still going to end up with a double feed, which is what our next video is going to be about.
Yep. Which, I would say a double feed is the biggest pain in the butt.
Oh yeah, oh my God.
However, if you don't know, it's a lot larger of a pain than it really needs to be, because it's not too hard to fix. We'll show you next week. But it's just something, we've seen a lot of people at the range when they come in with a rental gun or their own gun, and they tell us that their guns something's happened, their gun's jammed. And we go in there and it's a double feed.
Yep.
And that's just because when you start pulling and tugging on a double feed, you're not helping anything, okay?
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that.
But you still have to work through it and start out with tap rack.
Right, exactly. Exactly. It all starts with tap rack. Because that's kind of an assessment along with a fix.
Exactly. All right, so thank you for joining us for this show. We hope that you'll like our page here on Facebook and on the YouTubes, all over the internet. Exactly. Anywhere that you can, share us as well, because we need your help to get out there, and we appreciate you watching. Thank you very much.
Right on. See you guys next time.